Welcome back for our monthly visit. Patrick, good to see you back.
We've got a scoop for our 5 million viewers tonight. Stay tuned. Welcome to this edition of Shively and Shoulders. Judge, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
Patrick, it's good to see you. The primary's behind us.
The primary is behind us. I am sure that our two prognosticators, who now bat 0 for 2 on predicting local elections, Dr. Hanka Burnin' Love out there at USI and Dr. Diane Rhymes with Lion, you got this one wrong too.
Well, they came close, maybe?
No. They called them both wrong. But, you know, there's so much going on. And we're going to talk tonight to the candidate who some would say shocked the world a little bit in what was not an upset. She won by 6 or 7%.
Exactly.
But you know what? There's a lot going.
With a 12% voter turnout.
We can talk a little bit about the rest of the world. You know, at the national level, the standard bearer for your party, well, your old party, because you're nonpartisan now, is on trial facing felony counts. Can you imagine the scene out there? I'm saying Hare Krishna, Buddhist monks over here, coffee vendor over there, everybody trying to get a glimpse of his hairline as he comes in and out of the criminal courts charged with felonies. And he's the nominee for president.
Well, let me just say this about that. I've listened to both sides of genres of prognosticators.
That was a Joni Mitchell song on both sides. Go ahead.
But basically, this trial, the federal government passed on trying Trump for these charges. Basically, they're trying to tie this state criminal code violation.
The payment of a hush money to a porn star. Yes.
Pat, let me finish.
Oh, you go ahead.
They're trying to tie that to voter fraud, a federal count, which this court has no jurisdiction over. What I don't understand is why your party didn't organize better on all the lawsuits they brought against Trump to try the case that really makes a difference, the January 6 charges.
We have those, and we have the documents. We have Georgia. You're right. We have other.
Georgia, all those cases will not be heard until 2025. Now we have the porn star case, and that's not a slam dunk.
No, it's not. Let's move then to the state level where Mike Braun, who did absolutely nothing as a senator for 6 years, is now Trump's pick, that same felon, his pick to be our governor, and it looks like he will be.
Well, don't count Jennifer out.
She's going to make abortion the issue. I read that in the local organ this morning.
Probably that's a strategic move that makes sense. Because even in states, red states, where the question of legalizing abortion is put on the ballot.
Kentucky, Ohio.
Yeah. Kansas.
Absolutely.
That is an issue.
I think it will be an interesting race because Braun has nothing to run on that he accomplished in the Senate. He was even going to vote against certifying the election until the very last minute. He's just going to continue to say, I'm Trump's boy. And it worked for Mark Messner. Let's talk about the 8th District. He beat Johnny by saying, I'm Trump's boy.
Except Mr. Messner started out by saying he was endorsed by Trump. When he got caught on that, he had to change his ads that he was endorsing Trump.
Maybe that's right. But he had all the sheriffs, and he said, let's see, I'm going to finish Trump's wall, and I'm going to ship them out of here. You know, really kind of got that whole thing, us against them, working for him here in the 8th District, and he won going away.
He won going away, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Republican Party evolves over this election cycle. It's amazing how, in January 6, 2021, if you and I were taping our show on that particular day, and I would have said, Trump's going to be a Republican nominee in 2024, you would have laughed at me.
I would have. I would have,
amazing.
because Mitch McConnell went to the floor of the House. The Speaker at that time went to the floor of the Senate and the House and said he needs to be held responsible, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to vote to impeach him because he's out of office, but the criminal courts will deal with this, and here we are. It's an interesting time in politics, which is a perfect segue to our guest today.
You're cutting this thing short.
Oh, are we still got more to talk about?
We got a little time, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm just excited about our guest.
Apparently you are.
Okay.
In the governor's race,
Yes,
Suzanne Crouch put up a good fight.
she did.
And I'll tell you what, she really delved into issues that voters should care about. And it's really sad that all these issues that really a governor cannot have any control over, like what's going on in the Middle East and other matters of that level. She wanted mental health, education were very big issues with the lieutenant governor, and I thought those were good issues, and those are things the governor can make a difference.
People don't care in this state for some reason. She couldn't run a commercial with Donald Trump with his arm around her. I was disappointed in our sitting governor, who she has served loyally for 8 years, never endorsing
I tried
her.
to explain that to you before.
You did, but it doesn't make any sense.
Let me tell you, Central Indiana, they think Holcomb was a joke.
Well, but she finishes a distant second, so what could it have hurt? The fact is, her elimination of the state income tax looked a little gimmicky to me. I don't know how you pull that off. But she did try to talk issues rather than the orange-haired monster loves me.
And speaking of primary results, we have an upset result as our guest here today,
We do indeed.
and she's coming up next. Do not go away. We're pleased to welcome our guest this evening, Amy Canterbury, the victor in the Republican Commissioner's 3rd District race. Amy, glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Amy, now, other than having the microphone stuck in your face after your victory, this is indeed a scoop, isn't it, on Shively and Shoulders?
It is.
How about that? Once again, 5 million viewers. We promised to deliver, and we have. Let's tell the viewers, primary, 10,000 people. I don't know how many people vote, but there are 100,000 potential voters. So take a little minute and just kind of talk about your background and leading up to why the hell anybody wants to run for political office.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. So I spent 25 years in banking and was really developed as a leader there. And I spent a lot of time in nonprofit work as well. So I went to find my heart about 11 years ago and spent 3 years as regional CEO of the American Red Cross. And then I moved 8.5 years ago to president and CEO of United Way. In that plan, my commitment to the United Way board was to go through a transition of the funding process that they'd been doing for 25 years, which is the definition of insanity and doing the same thing over and over. So we wanted to do make that transition to really some impact funding. We committed to right-sizing the organization itself because we shouldn't ask other nonprofits that the United Way was funding to do something different than we were. And then I committed to a succession plan. And I said I'd do that within 10 years. Well, we found my successor a little sooner, and we started that plan about 2 years ago and promoted Amy Mangold to president then last April. And as I was transitioning out and started giving more and more of the work to Amy, the more I realized that I'm not finished yet, and I have a lot to offer. So there was so much that we did in the United Way work that relates to government, honestly, and particularly in talent EVV. Right there, we're talking about how we attract talent, how we work on population growth, poverty reduction, what our education looks like, and our health index. I've been right in the center of some of this work, which government should be in as well.
Your opponent was a sitting commissioner out for the 3rd District. She had a long career in public service, had won almost every county-wide race she'd run in. You were able to prevail. What was your secret?
The secret sauce, I think, in this is literally talking to people and the network. It's something that we learned at the bank, and I would say that comes from Wayne Henning. It was always the circle, right? How many folks can you reach, and how does that look? And quite frankly, I think the message is really what prevailed, and that was the fact that I know how to work in collaborative efforts and work together with folks, and I know how to do it with civility. And those were the two things that we drove home throughout the campaign.
Now, was your first run of public office of any kind.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think the inspiration here, I happen to be in the other party, but I've known you for a long time. The inspiration, I think, is, as Les and I were talking about, all the ugliness that's in politics, public service is still a calling.
It is.
And that's the way you felt.
And I really felt called to do this work. I
And so
absolutely did.
people your age, and of course you're young, but can still find a niche and decide to give back to their community.
Absolutely.
And that's the way you felt.
I really do. I feel very strongly about it.
I got one question for you.
Okay.
I received all of the mailers from both camps and saw the TV ads. Which camp was actually the true conservative? I mean, your opponent said you were a Democrat in sheep's clothing, and that she was a true conservative. Yet you came out, in fact, emblazoned all over your campaign literature was true conservative for Vanderburgh County.
I saw rhino. I don't even know that I know what that means. But I thought it was at the zoo, but any event.
Republican in name only.
I see. Somebody called that
So,
somebody
I mean,
that. I don't know.
How this level of attack begin? And who was the true conservative in your opinion?
You know, the attack comes as a result of where I voted, and then also as a result of where my opponent, who she actually supported in 2 separate elections against Republicans in a commissioner race, mind you. So I would say that I think we both probably knew where the argument was going to be, and that's what we both decided to land on. And, you know, at the same time, I didn't know what was going to be coming out of her camp, and I'm not sure she knew what was going to be coming out of mine. But in the end, I really feel like having supported, particularly out loud, folks against someone in her party in the commissioner race was probably a no-no.
Have you had time to examine the results? You know, everybody, the 2 prognosticators were on here all saying, well, she's never lost a county race. And I'm sitting here thinking, and even on that show thinking, wait a minute, she got pretty well thrashed in that mayoral, and there's more voters inside the city than there are in the county, and I don't know that you offset that. So I always kind of thought that it wasn't going to be an upset, that it was going to be awfully close. Have you analyzed where the vote was?
Not yet.
So
Not
we don't
yet.
know if it was county, city?
No, I don't know that. As far as I'm aware, they're not totally in yet as far as what we can get
In the
to.
precincts and the
Yes.
wards.
One
I
thing
mean, they are
that-
in, but as far as knowing,
One
getting
thing that
it
is
available. Yes.
It's going to affect you and every local Republican candidate is the race for delegates and precinct committee. It's very hotly contested. Some big-name Republicans, even some Republican office holders, got beat by unknowns.
A veritable coup d'etat is going on right now.
This is reminiscent of, I want so many years ago, about 30 years ago, when a group of us did the same thing, which propelled Tom Shetler as county chairman, and eventually, and Suzanne Crouch as vice chair, and the Republican Party locally changed forever, not forever, for a number of years. Do you see this happening this year?
I think there's change, obviously, that's inevitable here, and we're seeing that from the voter. But I do believe that the party really does want to come back together. And what I'm hearing more and more about is that the way we did drive and lead this campaign should
So how do you
do
bring
just that.
Can you bring it back together with the same chairperson? You have to have a new group of leaders.
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer.
Tough question.
It is a tough question.
But
and
the
one that will be-
insurgents are trying to replace Duckworth, correct? Who's been a guest here.
The way you do that, and the way the parties are organized, have been for years, you elect the overwhelming number of precinct committee people who elect the chairperson. You have your organizational meeting, I forget what it is, so many weeks after the primary, and all the newly elected precinct committees show up and cast their vote.
Cast the vote.
But before that, we're going to replace the county clerk because the current Republican county clerk just decided she wasn't going to finish the job.
Do you, now, as a newly elected member of the Republican leadership team in this county, you know who's going to step in those shoes? And
I don't know for sure.
Marcia Abel?
We've heard
heard Marcia, maybe.
we've heard the talk. So that's I think certainly a potential in Marcia Abel.
If Marcia does it, I tell you what, I tip my hat to her. I mean, she's been out for a number of years. I'm sure she's enjoying retirement, playing more golf. And
does
for her to
that.
make that commitment, I applaud her.
Well, I'm hearing that that's who it's going to be, and she has experience in a clerk's office, and so
Right.
it seems to be, and she's a Republican, and so it seems to me, and you'd be all right with that.
I would be.
The fall is a long time off, although the time's going to fly for you. Your opponent is it Hope Fussner? Also first run, or has she
Yes.
run?
To my knowledge, her first.
So both of you won't be able to play the experience card. Do you think your race, or are you hopeful that your race will be like the Stephanie Terry race that was about issues and that didn't get personal, unlike maybe the one you just came through?
That would be my hopes.
Do
yes.
you know Hope
I
Fussner?
met her on Election Day.
Okay.
So we followed each other around to a couple of different voting.
Here's what a lot of people don't realize, even though you ran in the 3rd district, you have to be from the 3rd district.
Right.
For commissioner, you all run at large.
You really do. Right.
And so, I mean, it's going to be a countywide election.
Still a countywide election. You just where we live, right?
Right.
So that's exactly right.
And big picture, the issues will be what, similar to what you just got done running on in terms of what, I mean, what are you going to tell the voters why they should elect you?
Well, the commissioners, it is mainly roads and bridges, right? And that's a big thing. And I think, again, it's going to be on collaboration. I think we have the opportunity to work with the city and not against the city. And we have the opportunity to work as a region with our surrounding counties and really sell Evansville as a region and not just as our city, but we need to work together.
I wanna pick up
and
on-
that's collaboration.
I want to pick up on that last comment. Your opponent in the primary was very much critical of the Economic Development Coalition of Southwestern Indiana.
Yes.
And she basically said that you were the handpicked candidate by that group.
Yes.
Tell me what's wrong with the county commissioner not warming up to and working with that group.
I would ask the same question. Why aren't we working together? If we are really trying to make Southwest Indiana better for all of us who live here, why aren't we working together to sell it and to bring money here and grants and do more work? Because we're a little bit landlocked on even some of the things that we can do in Vanderburgh County, but our surrounding counties may not be. That doesn't mean that doesn't bring revenue back to this community. And if we do it well and we have a plan and do it together, I mean, we really need a solid plan on what that looks like. And I'm telling you, with Talent EVV and what has been going on with EREP for the last several years, beginning with Tara Barney, and that's important to remember, Tara Barney was the president
Right.
and CEO of EREP
Right.
until December 31st. And so that work was strong work. And I'm very proud to have been a part of it with
So
the talent
basically-
work, but I think it's solid.
You wouldn't oppose the county being supportive financially of their efforts.
Absolutely.
Your opponent was also, when she ran for mayor, critical of the schools. And we have a consolidated school system that all the county schools are, it's the Vanderburgh County School Corporation. I assume you're also willing to collaborate with the schools should they need you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Smith was on our board at United Way. I've known him for a very long time. Our kids went to Wrights, and I think there's great things that can happen here. I just can't tell you how excited I am about it and thrilled just to really dig into the work.
So how much money are you going to have to raise?
That's a really good question.
Well, that's because I asked
knew.
it.
I wish I knew. You know, it was a pretty quick 90-day sprint, and so this time at least I have a little bit more time to do it, but I say it's still going to be a substantial
I mean,
amount.
it's a fact of life in politics.
It is, and it was far more than I expected. Let me just say that.
Does the state, and I don't know the answer to this, I'm not setting you up, does the state committee, does the National Republican Committee, all they want to do is give the Orange Monster money, but is there Republican money available, or do you have to, I mean, one donor at a time?
Well, that's another great question that I'm not quite clear on. Obviously, in a primary, no, and we'll see. How's that?
Well, here's the thing, too. I don't envy you at all. This is a presidential election year. We're electing a governor. All the members of the Indiana House, all members of the of the House of Representatives
It was, yes.
nationally.
It's-
And you're going to be out there competing for bucks
It's a
with those
tough
folks.
fundraising year, and right when I announced, and I even talked to some folks who were potential donors, they said, "Ooh, I've given a lot of money already to the gubernatorial race," and so on and so forth, and I'm not sure
That was
what
amazing.
this looks like.
You mentioned that's an important point because we had a 6-way race
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
primary.
Yes.
That sucked up a lot of
It
dollars.
yes, a lot of dollars were already committed
Exactly.
and spent. So, because I didn't come in until February, so obviously the governor's race, they were announced months in advance, right? So I had a 90-day sprint.
Do you know the two sitting commissioners other than your opponent,
Yes.
Elpers and Gable?
I do.
Tell us a little bit about that and how you think it'd be working with them. Well, Gable will have to run, or does he even have an opponent?
He does not, but there could be a caucus. I don't
see.
know that there will be at this point. I think he's a very level-headed, great person, and I know Justin a little bit. I think based on what I see, it could be a really good team, and I think that they have the ability to collaborate and be open-minded and do the right thing and listen to the constituents and do what's right.
You talked about the obligations of the counties and the big maintaining the roads and public infrastructure in the county. Are there some other things that you think the county should be doing that they're not?
You know, one of the things I talked about early on was have we really gone to get the grants and the type of money that we might have available out there? And I just feel like there may be money on the table because, you know, Fort Wayne's getting some of these dollars, South Bend and some of the other communities. Is that federal dollars? What does that look like? And working at United Way, I mean, we know how to
Sure.
go find grants. And so do we need a grant writer, for example? I don't know yet. I would just say
point.
there's a great opportunity in my mind, too, to actually get the county employees and just to feel like they're important enough and to let them do their job and talk, you know, maybe there's ideas that are probably sitting right here that they didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about.
I don't expect you to end your hopes by saying you're for consolidated government, but it's been defeated here. I guess it'll probably never come up. But we have a city clerk and a county clerk. We have a county park department for one park. We have a city park department. We have township government. We have a government system that was created in the 1800s.
Townships limited quite a bit. It's
Okay.
only have one county assessor.
We have a county police force and a city police force. Are there opportunities, in your view, to not consolidate, to streamline?
I think there's an opportunity to truly collaborate and work together and have a plan on certain things, particularly, you know, even development, for example, city and county working together. Does that mean consolidate? I don't know, but I do think that the relationships need to be strong because, you know what? The city is in the county. And there's more people in the city than the county, and that's the voters. And so what do the folks in the city want to see happen as well as far as the plan? You know, the city roads are still in the county.
Correct.
So what might that look like? And to your question, I mean, that's kind of unpacking it a little bit, right, and having conversations.
And it's not just the county commissioners looking at rural or
Exactly.
unincorporated because last
But that's
time,
the way it looks today.
well, the fact of the matter is, when the consolidation question came before the voters last time, it was the vote in the city that killed it, believe it or not.
Okay.
They were not convinced
I
that
did
was the
not
way to
know
go.
exactly where the
So
particular.
I think there's opportunities, don't you, for like the sheriff's department and the police department, city police, to work a little closer. I think they're working close together right now.
I think so.
Well,
We have a unique situation. You got USI, and you got 69 coming around out here all the way to Warwick County. And, you know, we're a perfect county that we ought to try to eliminate overlap, let's just call it, it seems to me.
Cooperation, I mean, consolidation may never occur, but cooperation can.
Cooperation can.
And economic development is a perfect.
It's a
that-
perfect
that-
place
That
to
should
do
be a
it.
place where there shouldn't be a county position or a city. See, we're telling you how to do the job.
All right.
One thing you might look at is
We're
maybe
your voters.
a combined city-county engineering department, not separate engineering department.
Do they have separate transportation departments? I mean, Lynch Road's probably in the county, but it comes through the city. I don't know. That's one for you to answer, Your Honor.
I don't draw the maps.
We thank you for coming on
Thank
with our
you.
5 million viewers watching.
Absolutely.
This is your first sit-down in the studio interview, and it'll always be a first here on
That's
Shively and
right.
Shively.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate
coming
it.
on. Good
Looking
luck.
forward to it.
When we come back, Les will take one more shot at Patrick.
And we're back. What a great guest.
Absolutely. It's refreshing, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, for somebody who's been through a career to say public service is not
Right.
a bad thing. I've still got something to give.
Right.
I think that's admirable.
Pat, I hate to bring this up,
Oh, don't then.
but you and I both IU grads,
We are.
both served in leadership roles at the university.
Both trustees of that great institution.
This past couple of weeks, the IU campus experienced, Bloomington campus experienced demonstrations by students over the Gaza situation. I was concerned and somewhat discouraged by the response by the leadership of the university, in particular when I saw photographs of snipers in the turrets of the Union Building.
It breaks my heart. I served in that role as a trustee for almost 20 years, 19 and a half. And IU was subject to the same, it's what kids ought to do at that age. They ought to protest, they ought to take a stand. So we weren't unique in the fact that our students wanted to be heard, but to change the rules at 11 o'clock at night over some hidden policy from 1969 and say, we're going to tear down your tents. When you and I were there, where did Bob Knight choose to have his rally when he had been fired by the university?
Right.
Dunn Meadow. When you and I were there, where were the protests against the Vietnam War? During my trusteeship, there was a guy in a tent in Dunn Meadow for 6 months protesting Iraq.
I probably was
It
protesting.
just wasn't handled very well.
Well, here's the thing, too. I think this latest situation nationwide, there are some outside agitators that are not students that are fomenting all these concerns. But there's ways to handle those people and to have a legitimate, well-monitored protest by students, and that was not exhibited here.
It was not, and it's a very delicate issue, and you and I could devote a whole show to the need for perhaps a Palestinian state and for the Israeli and the Jewish people's fight to survive in a Middle East where it's hostile all around them. There are emotional, existential issues on both sides of that, and people can get emotional. And IU has people named Simon and Eskenazi, and probably the single best Jewish studies department in the United States of America. So it's going to be sort of a pressure cooker. But if you bring together, she used the word collaboration, student leadership,
Right.
university leadership, faculty leadership, cops, state troopers, and you say, let's get through this together.
Right.
Nobody has a right to break the law. Everybody has a right to be heard.
Here's our plan to preserve
Exactly.
peace,
Exactly.
prevent
To park a
vandalism.
sniper on top of the Union is disgusting.
And I tell you what, the superintendent of state police's explanation for that conduct was not very convincing.
And maybe that's where this edition of Shively and Shoulders can end, because we just agreed, ladies and gentlemen.
We will see you next month. Take care.